Hello, and welcome back to another episode recap where I'll lay out 5 things that I learned from my conversation with a historical expert. Today, we'll talk about the 2018 comedy Tag. That's the movie starring Jeremy Renner, Ed Helms, and Jon Hamm about the group of friends who have played the same game of tag for decades. And perhaps the term historical expert isn't really the right term for today's movie, but the real group of friends refer to themselves as the Tag Brothers. And if you're a regular listener of the audio version of the Based on a True Story podcast, you'll know that I had Patrick Schultheis and Joe Tomberry on the podcast to talk about the accuracy of the movie. Patrick and Joe, so you can probably guess, are 2 of the real Tag Brothers that the movie was based on. Well, that episode with Patrick and Joe was about an hour long, so if you don't have the time to listen to the whole thing yet, well, that's why I'm here today with this video to recap 5 things that I learned about the movie Tag from 2 of the Tag Brothers, Patrick and Joe. So let's get started. Number 1, there were more players. Even though there are only 5 players in the movie, the real game of tag has 10 people that are playing. So there's not really a one-to-one match of the characters in the movie to the real people. Instead, Patrick and Joe said the filmmakers did a pretty good job of taking the entire group of real friends and creating characters that were an amalgamation of the real people. Number 2, the month of the game. The movie sets up the idea that the game of tag takes place every year for an entire month, and that is true. What the movie changed, though, is what month that was. In the movie, it's May, but as Patrick and Joe told me, the real game takes place in February. So the entire month of February, game on. Once the month ends, whoever is it until the next year. Number 3, the wedding was made up. A major plot point in the movie revolves around Jeremy Renner's character, Jerry, getting married and the game of tag going on around that event. Patrick and Joe told me that the real game hasn't taken place during anyone's wedding like we see in the movie. However, Patrick did relay the story of how he was tagged at his father's funeral. Oh, and there's a truce signed in the movie for the duration of the wedding. Patrick and Joe said that that's never happened, although they did mention that there have been informal truces between the players, and there is a legal document spelling out the rules to the game, and it does include the ability to amend the rules of those games, but those rules have never, at least to this point, been amended. Number 4, 30 years without being tagged. In the movie, Jerry has never been tagged in the 30 years the game has been going on. That's part of the reason why it's such a big deal to try and get him before he gets married. Hence, the plot of the movie. But, as Patrick and Joe mentioned, the longest someone went without being tagged was when one of the players moved from the Seattle area, where they all live, to Boston. He was there for over a decade, and even though some did try to fly out there and tag him, he happened to be out of town at the time, so he was not tagged during that time. But still, it's nothing like the movie shows for the character of Jerry never getting tagged throughout the entire game. Number 5, more than just a game. The end of the movie leaves us with more than just comedy. It implies that this game has been a way for these friends to stay connected over the years. And in that way, the movie is very true. Patrick and Joe told me that one reason why the group of 10 have stayed friends for 40 years now has been because of the game of tag. It's been a reason to get together, to keep in touch, and perhaps just as importantly, a reason to laugh together over the crazy antics that have happened throughout the years. That's all for today, and hopefully you've enjoyed this episode recap of 5 things that I learned from Tag Brothers, Patrick and Joe, about the movie Tag. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, Patrick and Joe and I talked and laughed about a lot more than just these few things that we talked about in this video. So if you want to hear the full interview with the 2 Tag Brothers, go check out the full audio podcast episode at basedonatruestorypodcast.com/140. Once again, that's basedonatruestorypodcast.com/140. In the meantime, for more recaps and full-length episodes of Based on a True Story, hit that subscribe button right now. Thanks for watching.